Hi, I'm Matt from specialist ukulele store World of Ukes and editor of Uke magazine. In this video I'm going to be looking at 10 soprano ukuleles that I really like across a broad range of prices, from the Baton Rouge V2S, which is £79, up to the Anui Nui Moonbird and the Kiwaya KTS7 down there at £1,099. I'll go through what they are and their main features, then do some sound comparisons back to back. These will start with some very quick single chords and progress to some longer tunes afterwards, and if you want to skip past me talking about them, then you can do that in the chapters below by skipping straight to the sound demos. Let's have a look at them. The first one up is the Baton Rouge V2S, which is a laminate mahogany soprano with just a bit of laser etching around the sound hole. Otherwise it's fairly plain to look at, but it is inexpensive at £79. The V2S has decent quality geared tuners and ukuleles strings. They also do a V2SW. That one has a 38mm nut width, a nice wide nut for those who like a bit more space or have bigger hands, but for me I'm using the V2S, which has a 35mm nut, which is similar to what I play myself usually at home. Japanese company Kiwaya makes some excellent sopranos, and we're going to be looking at a few more of those later in the demonstrations here, but this is a Chinese made Kiwaya, so they've recently in the last few years started making instruments in China, and looking towards the beginner end of the market, these are £109. The KSU1 has fluorocarbon strings. These are Kiwaya's own KFC. Their slogan isn't finger picking good, but it really should be. So these come with a very basic but fine gig bag, but they are very nice, bright and perky, so that's one of the ones we'll be looking at. We're moving into all solid wood territory now with the Miller TM210MN. These are Taiwanese made sopranos, some nice binding and inlays, giving it a bit more of a vintage look, and the Fremont black lines that are fitted, I think they're quite a vintage traditional sounding string. The Millers have very good De Young geared tuners, and it's got quite a thin body, this one, not quite a travel ukulele, but certainly not going to take up much space in your suitcase were you to take one abroad. With the same thin body as the previous Miller, this one is the CD210MN. This one features a solid cedar top, nice tight grain on that cedar, and the back and sides are solid rosewood. So it feels a little bit heavier than the mahogany version, but not heavy. This one has ukuleles strings as well. One thing I like about Miller is that they will choose strings for individual models rather than just go for one size fits all across their ranges. I don't always agree with them, the strings that they choose, but I do like the ukuleles strings on this one. Not always my favourite string, but it does the job here. So that's one of the ones we'll try. That's going to be 279, nice instrument, as we'll find out in a bit. I promise they're not all Millers in this comparison, it just so happens we have three in a row. This one is the PD210MN, which is the Phil Dolman signature model, which Phil and I developed with Miller to Phil's specifications. So this one is relatively plain, but uses a high grade all solid mahogany construction. Worth Brown strings, and we've got these Goto lookalikes. They're not Goto UPTs, but they look like them. You might be familiar with those. These are made by De Young, but they look like friction pegs, give that sort of traditional visual effect, but they've got modern gears inside, so you can use them a lot more easily for those who are put off by friction pegs, which I'm not, but some are. Anyway, that's the PD210MN, and that one is £329. We're on to our first Japanese made Kiwaya now with the KS5G. This one is a laminate koa. It's high pressure laminate from Kiwaya's Eco series, which is very popular. This one has a ever so slightly wider feeling nut. It's actually 36mm, which isn't massive, but the string spacing is pretty generous. That one's got these nice looking neat geared tuners on, and I'm not quite sure what the strings are. They tend to vary from individual model to model, which is slightly annoying when you're writing descriptions, but they appear to be similar, if not the same as D'Addario titaniums. These KS5Gs come in at 369, so that's one of the ones we'll be comparing in the sound demos shortly. Moving up the price scale now to 599 is this Loprinzi Model A soprano. These are made by Donna Loprinzi in Florida in the US. This particular Model A is made from very interesting exotic hardwood that's called black limber. I always want to say black mamba, but it's not. That would be a snake, that would be silly. These have friction pegs, which are very effective for those who are scared about friction pegs. Before I made this video, I obviously tuned all of these ukuleles up ready, but this particular one was the one that was most in tune right from the start. So friction pegs do work, just a little bit more fiddly to tune. So that's one of the ones we'll be trying. One of my favourites as well. It's got a really slim neck and it just seems to help my reach, but playability is difficult to show on a video, but I promise it's very nice. There are 10 lovely instruments in this comparison, but if I was to choose one for me, possibly the one I would go for would be the Kiwaya KPS 1M. These come in at £779. They've got a 37mm nut, which is slightly wider than I usually like, but it's got a slender neck profile too, and it just seems to fit my hand like a glove. These Japanese made ones are gloss finish and a all solid mahogany construction, and you've got very nice smooth Goto geared tuners on. Yeah, I really like this one, as we'll probably see when we're doing the demos and I'm trying to stifle a smile. Perhaps because of their vintage Martin style looks, the Kiwaya KTS7 is one of the more popular high-end soprano ukuleles that I've come across. These Japanese made instruments are again all solid mahogany with some cream binding and these familiar decorations which you'll see on some vintage Martin models. This one has Fremont black lines, which again I think give you more of a vintage authentic tone. And it's got Goto UPT tuners, similar to the De Young ones we saw on the Miller, but they're very petite and they've got gears inside but look like pegs. Although this Anui Nui US 200 Moonbird is the same price as the Kiwaya KTS7 at $1,099, it really is the kind of the polar opposite, if you can have that in two instruments which are both soprano scale. This one is much more modern in looks and the tone is vibrant, not vintage at all. These are solid Swiss spruce on the top and solid rosewood on the back and sides. They have the same tuners as the Kiwaya UPTs, nice black ones to go with this smart looking faceplate. So that's the Anui Nui US 200 is going to be the final one in the comparison, and we'll move on to the sound samples next. As I mentioned earlier, we'll do rapid fire changes between the two, between the 10 side by side early doors, and then get some longer tunes in later. On to the sound samples then for these 10 top soprano ukuleles, and bear in mind that I'm going to keep the recorder settings the same throughout the tests, so while it's difficult to demonstrate actual volume of a ukulele on a video, after all, if you turn it down it sounds quieter, and if you turn it up on your speakers it sounds louder, but at least you'll be able to hear the relative difference in terms of volume. a look at 10 soprano ukuleles, some that are really popular, some that are great value, and some that are gems that are personal favourites which you might not have considered otherwise. Thanks a lot for watching, and do subscribe to the World of Ukes YouTube channel, where you'll find 400 other ukulele demos and videos. Thanks very much for watching.
worldofukes.co.uk worldofukes.co.uk